Welcome to Avant-garde Entrepreneur. I am so glad you're here today with me, my friend. Today, we are touching on two topics that we've not really discussed on the podcast before, but are increasingly important, and it's time to discuss them now: AI and cybersecurity. These are incredibly timely and significant topics that we really want to try to stay on top of for the health of our business and also for our personal sanity. So in true avant-garde entrepreneur fashion, our guest today is more than just an expert. He's a brilliant storyteller and communicator with a broad range of business experience. I think our guest is the type of person that you're going to learn from without realizing he's taught you anything. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Peter Schroeder. Peter is an accomplished DJ, entrepreneur, and technology pioneer. With over 20 platinum records, 40 gold records, and a triple nomination for the prestigious Danish DJ Awards. Peter is one of Denmark's top DJs, entertaining audiences of up to 180,000 people. He was a featured radio host by the age of 12 and appeared on talk shows and TV stations across Denmark. In addition to his music career, Peter also has 20 years of experience creating cutting-edge technologies for companies such as Facebook, Samsung, and Airbnb. He's a true innovator who works closely with businesses to address mission-critical telecommunications, enabling them to really quickly implement and manage and to expand for success. Peter's latest endeavor, Telzio, is what he calls a pre-unicorn unified telecommunications company that he founded. With Telzio, Peter is developing game-changing technology and products that simplify and streamline repetitive tasks. And throughout his career, Peter has survived a plane crash and the birth of twins. No small feat for either of those. Peter, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this. It's going to be fun.
Thank you. So, Peter, I've talked a little bit about your incredible professional background, but give us a little glimpse into the early life of Peter. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Kind of what was your early career?
Wow, I started really early.
Yeah, you did start really early.
So I'm from Denmark. I grew up in northern Denmark and lived there until about 10 years ago. Mom and a dad who were musicians. My mother was a pianist. She was actually invited into the local symphony orchestra at age 16, but my grandfather wouldn't allow her because she needed to get a real job. So she went and became an engineer. So already there, I kind of have both the music and the technology. My dad was a drummer in a band, and he was out on gigs every weekend. So I kind of grew up with that whole thing around me. And then I think the main thing that really happened was when I was 6 years old, they gave me a computer, and I was not really interested in playing video games like my friends. I was into figuring out how does that video game actually work, or who made it? Someone must have made it, how did they do that? I was always very curious, and then for some reason I ended up doing radio at age 9, 10-ish on national radio, and that became TV eventually. I was out reporting from different kids shows or different events for kids, and interviewing other kids, traveling all over the country doing that. And then eventually when my voice changed, when I got in the puberty and in the teenage years, obviously I couldn't be a kids show reporter anymore. So I started tinkling with the internet. It was just happening, that was right. It was around 1996 to 1998-ish. And the internet just became a thing. So I actually made my first website back then that became a real company and that I sold later on. And that was like age 13, 14. So yeah, I started early.
Yeah, you did start early. So when did you start DJing? Was that after you couldn't sing I'm sorry, not you couldn't sing, after your voice changed?
No, actually, I remember very, very vividly the day I found out I wanted to be a DJ. I was probably in third grade or something like that. And there was a school dance and there was a DJ, like a mobile setup. And I just saw this guy was able to make people dance and have a good time just by playing some cool records. And I was like, that is so awesome. I want to do that. And I started playing at my friends' birthday parties with 2 cassette tape players, and eventually when I was old enough, I started getting gigs at a local bar. So that kind of happened simultaneously with everything else.
Oh, amazing. What was your spark to start Telzio?
That was really just because I was working on a different project. I had this idea for a platform to exchange promotion music between artists and DJs and radio stations. And I needed a support, hotline kind of phone number for people to call. And I needed like a phone menu because I couldn't just answer it myself all the time. So I needed like a menu and these kind of things to direct the calls. And there was just not anything good out there that was affordable that I could easily manage either. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to build it myself. And I got, totally bit by that bug. That was just so much fun. I totally forgot about time when I was coding on this project. And eventually I had a proof of concept that, okay, yeah, maybe I should just make it a real company and release it and see if people will sign up. That was kind of how to start.
Wow. And obviously they have. That's amazing. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, AI. And Peter, I have to tell you, I remember when you still had to say the whole words, artificial intelligence, and people still looked at you like you had 2 heads. I wasn't an expert, so I wasn't out talking about it a lot. But I remember that when AI, you had to say it all out. You've been around building your first computer in the late 1990s. What are the thoughts? You hear a lot about the trends in using AI and that if businesses don't adopt AI, they're going to get left behind. I've heard that around the past few months. What are your thoughts about the role of AI in business, let's say over the next 3 to 5 years?
So the interesting thing is, like you kind of touched on, it's not a new thing. It's not a new concept at all. Definitely not. But it's also not a new thing around us. AI has been around for a long time, or in different degrees, right? But what we've seen recently is a huge leap in what we can do with it, and the research has just basically kind of unfolded a lot faster recently. I remember my mom actually telling me about AI the first time, and probably in the 90s. That was I was very fascinated about this, and I would say, you got to get on board. I mean, there's no doubt this is going to be bigger than the internet when that came. There's just no way to kind of beat around the bush on that. But the thing is, how do I put it? It's not an easy thing to adopt if you're not an engineer by heart or like very curious about tech. But you have to. This is just so groundbreaking. You can kind of compare it with when. The car came, and you had saddle makers back then that were like, we're always going to have saddles to make because people need horses and need to transport things, right? So then came the car, and they're like, oh, well, the ones that started making upholstery for cars, they did really, really well. Mm-hmm. So if you don't adapt right now, and if you don't start at least understanding what this is about, what it can do for you, and kind of get a feel for how can I use it to my advantage, then you are going to be behind. You are going to lag behind because you can bet your competitors are going to do it. There's no way to prevent this. There's no law that can in any way prevent this from happening. You can't say, well, we're going to uninvent this. It's there now, and you have to accept it.
It sounds like what my husband would say. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Once it's out, it's there.
That's how it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
So are there any, I know that we hear there are some tools out there. If someone is just kind of opening the door to AI, obviously there are things on your phone that you can use. But for someone who is just now thinking of adopting it, are there any tools that you recommend that are more efficient than others, or maybe more accurate, I guess you could say, than others?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this is really early. What we are seeing right now is just scratching the surface of what we're going to see. And there are a lot of products and a lot of companies out there that are working on stuff, including mine, haven't even released it yet, and maybe even holding back a little bit to see kind of where things are, how it matures. I mean, we started building our AI stuff back in 2017. It's not a surprise to us that this is happening. We've just kind of been waiting for the technology to be ready for it. But yeah, there are ways, and it really depends on what your company does, because if you're a tech company, then you should definitely understand how to build things with it and integrate it in whatever your product is. But if you're just another, I would almost say a brick and mortar store or any kind of business, a professional service business or whatever, then there are a ton of different products out there. And I would, right now, as things are, of course, OpenAI's ChatGPT is kind of still the leader. And what you get with Microsoft, they haven't released it for everyone yet. Right now it's still an enterprise thing, but they have their Copilot that is being implemented into pretty much all their products, Office products, Outlook, Word, Excel, everything. And that's based off of OpenAI because Microsoft made a big investment in them. So I would say you are going to see, no matter what you do, you're going to see that the products you use, all the different software as a service products, platforms, all of them are going to have AI. If they don't already, they're going to have it soon. Because like I said before, if they don't, they're going to fall behind and someone else will come in and have it.
Yeah. I've noticed that too on some of the different platforms that I use. You see the little star. It's not always a star, but something like that where you're like, oh, that's the AI button.
Yeah, exactly. And that's still kind of the industry figuring out how do we present this in a UI, user experience way so people understand that it's there I go. But I think this is part of the whole maturing phase that we're in.
Yeah. So I guess the message probably for listeners is just start, right? Yeah. Just go ahead, just start, try some simple prompts, just get in there and play with it.
That's the thing is go sign up for ChatGPT, and there are millions of guides to how you get started out there. And it's actually really good now at explaining that to you as well when you log in the first time. It wasn't in the beginning, but they're getting a lot better at that. But the whole prompt thing is where I think people need to kind of wrap their head around how does that thing work? How do I actually make it do what I need to do? And it's a little bit of just learning and messing around with it and trying it out and understanding how it reacts to certain things. But the best thing is really just to think of it as you have an assistant that you tell something you need done, and then you get a response.
Oh, that's a nice way to think of it. You don't have to use fancy words. Just pretend like you're talking to your imaginary assistant. I like that.
Well, yeah, I usually give it compliments as well. I don't know.
Nice.
Maybe I'm a little afraid of the future or something, but I don't know.
I've started being nicer to my Alexa.
Be nice to the computer.
Be nice. Be very nice because they're listening. Okay, so on to the next topic. They're listening. Let's talk about cybersecurity. So many entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs, are working on a shoestring budget, especially for the first 3 to 5 years. Obviously, any type of hack or issue is going to be more expensive than the prevention of it. But what are some of the basics that business leaders can put in place to kind of, I guess you could say, cover some of the bases or at least protect their data and their operating systems until they get to that kind of that curve where they've made it and they can afford to purchase more robust systems or tools?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, get in your head that you are going to be hacked. At some point, there's going to be a lot of attempts, but eventually they will probably get through. It's just a fact and statistics. So get that in your head now and try and see if you can prevent it and at least do your best. And especially if you are in the industry of holding customer data. So if you're a healthcare or a professional service like a law firm or something like that, you need to take this very, very, very seriously because the thing is they might not be targeting you directly, but they are. They're just trying to as many as possible, and eventually something will get through. So what do? That's a good question. I think the main thing is really of course, take it serious, but also use products that are established. So don't go for some kind of, and I hate saying this because it sounds horrible, but don't go for tiny startups for businesses that hold the most important parts of your data. So treat it as an enterprise. So go with for email and stuff like that. Go with something like Microsoft 365 or Google. They are big companies and they have a lot of things out of the box that you don't have to configure that will get you really, really far in securing these things. And then take your credentials, access to everything very serious. I have a strict rule in our company that we don't sign up for anything that doesn't offer single sign-on. Because the problem with most things is if you have a login to 10 different services that your business use, and you have 10 employees, that's 100 different logins right there that you need to protect and make sure that are up to date and not, the password don't fall into someone's hands and let alone maybe they don't even enable two-factor authentication, which you should of course always do with everything you sign up for. But if you have single sign-on and you make that a strict rule that you don't sign up for anything, that means that you only have one username and password that you log into on a portal somewhere. It could be a Microsoft portal, it could be Google or Amazon Web Services or something like that. And once you log in there, then you have little icons for all these services and you click on the icon you want to log into and it logs you in. You don't have to enter your username and password to log into that extra service. So the benefit of that, and you might say, well, then there's just one password and then they get access to everything. Well, the thing about that is if you only have one username and password, you're more likely to actually change that password once in a while, but also remember it and not use it elsewhere. Because what typically happens if you have 10 different logins somewhere, you use the same password. That's just how people are. And you might be forced to change that password every 3 months, and then you just add an exclamation mark or 2020 after or something like that. And that's obviously not a good thing. But what we really do is we actually don't enforce password change. I'm not that worried about passwords anymore because our users, employees only have one username and password. And then we have a hardware token, which is called a YubiKey. The one we use is a little hardware token, USB thing we have to plug into the computer and we have to touch that physically to log in. So one thing is we have a username and password. We also have that little physical token that we have to have. Otherwise we can't log in. And that itself, because there's only one of them, there's only one place we log in, there's only that, it's a lot more secure that way. So take that serious and use single sign-on.
Okay. When you say single sign-on, I don't want to assume and say the name of a company that's not single sign-on. Can you give me an idea of single sign-on?
So single sign-on is really just a feature that pretty much all service providers out there, all different products you use have enabled or have implemented. And then there are some identity providers, is what it's called, which is kind of the place where you then have your username and password, you log in. And then from there, once you're logged in, you kind of have this stepping stone onto all the other services, icons you can press on. And there's a bunch of them. There's one called Okta, and then there's Microsoft 365. There's Google Workspaces, I think it's called these days, or G Suite. But there are a bunch of these out there that provide this identity provider. And that's where you create the users for your employees. You go in there and sign them up. And once you create a user there, then they'll be created in all the other platforms. They'll get an email address automatically, all that stuff. So it's also, simplifies management. And also you don't forget to delete a user, to your accounting system, for someone who's not with the company anymore, something like that.
Yes, that's great. And those are things that are easily accessible for most people. So
it's very easy.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you see behind the curtain, so to speak, or under the hood, if we were using a car analogy, of a lot of businesses as well as your own. So as you have developed Telzio, were there some things, whether that was technical or leadership wise, that you wanted to do differently than either you'd done in the past or that you'd seen other people do in the past?
Yeah, I there's a couple of things, obviously. There's many things that I would do differently because you're always, hindsight and all that stuff. From a pure business startup point of view, I would say find a salesperson as your co-founder. I we've taken a lot longer to grow. One thing is we didn't take investments, so we have kind of bootstrapped it and taken the long road, which is great today. We own the company and we can do what we want, but definitely taking longer to grow because we were more focused on the product itself and the customers rather than selling. So that's something in hindsight. But in terms of technology and what I would do different and what I see people do different that I would recommend doing differently is really kind of what I touched on before. Treat your company as an enterprise from day one. So don't skip over and go for the easy low hanging fruits all the time. Make sure that you do it right, especially something like cybersecurity or communications or implementing automations and making life easier for you and your employees, implementing AI, but do it in a way where that a company with 500 employees would do it. It's going to set you up for success because it's going to make it easier for you in the future, but it might cost a little bit more from the beginning, of course, but it's also going to give you access to all these tools that the big companies have that actually makes things easier and make things better for your business. So treat it as an enterprise.
Yeah. And when you start with that mindset, it's amazing the resources that come to you that you never would have seen before. But when you have this vision and this belief, it might seem impossible now for listeners, but once you embrace that mindset, it's amazing how the resources come out of the blue. Whether it's even if it's a Google ad, it just comes to you. It's amazing.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
So you've had a varied career path, done lots of things, you've got a family. What would you mind sharing maybe a mistake that you made or something that aside from the things that you just shared when it comes to just business and technical things, was there anything really rough that happened in your early career that you would do differently or that you could share with us?
Oh, many things. I would lie if I didn't say yes. And everyone makes mistakes, and I think one of the main things were really in my early 20s. I had a lot of success as a musician. I was in a band, and when we were on tour, and I decided, well, I'm going to start a record label because, of course, I can do what that record label that we were signed to does and so on and so on. And I have raging ADD, and I didn't know that back then. I wasn't diagnosed because that wasn't even a thing when I grew up. That was ADHD, but that's the ones that run backwards up the walls. I'm not like that. So I didn't have the insights in terms of, I wouldn't say capability, capacity, I guess is the word, to what I can do and what I want to do. Because thing about me is I want to make people happy, and I actually just enjoy helping everyone I can, and have a finger in everything really, but also I just want to help out. Where if there's something I see that I could help one of my friends with, that I know I could do a good job at, I want to do it. The problem is you have a limited capacity no matter what. There's only so much you can do, and I said yes to everything. I hadn't learned to say no, and I didn't understand that it's not a bad thing to say no, but it's a bad thing to accept or offer to do something or say yes to do something and then don't follow through with it. That's way worse than if you say no. So I burned a lot of bridges at some point, and I definitely had too much, like way too much on my plate. Eventually, actually my old booking agent pulled me aside and said, "Hey, what's going on? You're burning bridges, and what's going on here?" And she helped me sell my record label, and I actually ended up. I actually got thrown out of my apartment, got evicted because I couldn't pay rent either. I was all in. So I just reset and moved back on my mom's couch for a couple of weeks and then started over. But it taught me so much. It definitely something I wouldn't have been without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And thankfully you had that reset. It's amazing that you were able to, whether you had people that spoke into your life or part of your intuition or physical, whatever it was that made you stop. It's amazing that you did that and changed track. Yeah.
I definitely owe Christina, my old agent, a lot for having that insights and going in and actually stepping in, pulling me aside and helping me fix my life essentially. It was a major turning point, and I'm so thankful for that.
And that probably was tough for her too, because you are all in with the mindset probably of, and I don't think that you're that way now, but I understand the kind of the biology when you're just all in and you're on a mission, and it really takes a strong person to connect and to help. So amazing.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that I've learned a lot from, and I'm still learning. I want to do everything, but I've definitely have the insights to understand what my capacity is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying yes for this podcast. I appreciate it. So do the listeners. So if you had to say 3 traits for yourself, what you've experienced as an entrepreneur, and some of the things that you've seen other people do and focus on and who they are, what would you say are those traits and how they really help leaders throughout their career?
So for myself, I can say stubbornness. I am incredibly stubborn, and which is the reason why I get to where I get when I do things. I'm never the best at what I do, and I'm not at an out of the box talent that just get overnight success. But I am a very, 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 very stubborn guy, and I'm very hardworking. So I will get to my goals eventually. That's one thing. And then naivety is the other. I think you have to have a little bit of that to dare to go out and do something bold. So think about Telzio. We're a business phone service provider, basically competing with AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. And when we started out, we didn't have investors. We cashed in my wife's 401k, $16,000 or something like that, and that's what we started out with. And we were like, okay, yeah, now let's go take down AT&T. That makes absolutely no logical sense that you would do that. But that naivety, that you believe that it can actually happen and you can actually do it, and you see a path to it, I think is important, and never give up on that. I think it's like P.B. Longstockings. He says something like, "I have never done that before, so I'm sure I'll be good at it."
Yes.
Go into everything with that.
Yes. So it's clear, and you have mentioned this, but you didn't even have to say it for it to show. It's clear that you really love helping people, and you really like taking things that are complicated and maybe overwhelming and seems like there's not a solution, and creating one for them. Mm-hmm. Is there more? Like, what is your why? What is it that keeps you going on the tough days?
If you really want to cut it down to the bone and really like get to the core of it, it's the ability to make people's life a little bit better by doing something that I'm good at. And I'm not trying to save the world. I'm not trying to go on this big quest. To me, it's right, very like tangible, very in front of me in the now. So when I was a DJ, the reason why I became a DJ in the first place was because I liked seeing people be happy just by me playing a good song. And it's not about them seeing me. It's my, I can, even if I go to a club or a bar and not working there, and I can just stand there and watch the dance floor with people enjoying themselves. It's amazing. Yeah. So that is really the main thing for me. And it's the same thing when I invite my friends over for dinner. I, cook a big meal and put some nice wine on the table, and I just have a good time and giving that to people. That's really what it is. And when I started seeing how people with our product actually, had a good experience and it made their day-to-day work and job easier and less cumbersome, that is such a thrill for me. I just love that. I think that's really the why for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you make things simpler for them, that means more time with their families, more time doing the things that they love. It's amazing. That's
exactly. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I love that you love making people happy. That's fun. I can't imagine what that feels like as a DJ, because you don't ever see the DJs. You might see an image of the DJ, or unless you're a groupie and you're up like with the DJ, but I can't imagine what that feels like to be up there and to kind of be in the shadows and put on a song and just see everybody go wild and know that it wasn't maybe your song, but it was your idea to play that song that just shifted the whole energy.
Yeah, exactly. And that you can kind of orchestrate it so that certain songs come in a certain order and mixed in at a specific time that drops that bomb on people. They're like, whoa, this is awesome. And that you get that thrill that, oh my God, I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. I can feel it just hearing you. It's amazing. So before I ask my last question, I'm going to ask you one more after this one. How do people find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Directly, peterschroeder.com. It's a very, very simple website. There's only a few icons to all my social media and my email address and all that. But so that's really the easiest. I'm everywhere. So, and I enjoy when people reach out. So go find me, peterschroeder.com. And then Telzio is my company, TELZ as in zebra, IO.com. And free trial there. Go try it out. It's fun.
Perfect. Okay, my last question. What is your biggest vision for Telzio now?
So this is an interesting thing because I'm not the type of person that has these big, grand, far in the future, set in stone goals that this is where I want to be. It's very tangible, very, very, small steps, one at a time. And that's probably also why I've been able to go in and try and compete with big guys, because I'm not trying to compete with them. I'm just taking my little corner and a bigger bite of the market at a time. So for me, it's really just these little, new features we're building, like right now we're about to release some AI and some other things. And then there's a huge list of things I want to build. And then eventually, I won't be doing this forever. We'll probably sell it or whatever will happen. Who knows? But at some point, I need to own a hot dog stand and just stand there and make hot dogs for people. That's on my list.
Make them happy in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Just stand there all day and talk and have a good, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Peter. Well, you have absolutely made me happy. I am sure that you have made my listeners happy. So thank you so much for sharing and for the insight and for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.